भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्। अशेम बहु बहिष्ठेमस्ति उष्टास्ति उष्टामाय यदशाय वहिष्ठाय शेम श्मा इस्राएल Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad। नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्सा। बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि। Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. La ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah. La ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah. La ilaha illallah, Allah, Allah. Om साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Sairam, everyone. Welcome to this month's SAIMA. It's so wonderful to see all of you today on our dear Swami's birth. And I think birthday songs in order, right? So happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you, dear Swami. Happy birthday to you. And what it's been, just such a beautiful time, 96 years of him guiding, shepherding us into who we are today. And I guess, 97, we'll see what it brings. Maybe the divine spark will finally transform us and, transform us into the devotees that we've always wanted to be for Swami. And so it's so important to think about today and to think about the birth of Swami as well into our lives and how he's transformed us and changed our lives in forever. And so I'm sure today's been celebratory in many different ways, recalling, memories and just basking in his glory. And, who better to celebrate and continue the celebration with than our dear brother Sanjai Murali. Sanjay, uncle, is no unfamiliar face to any one of us, needs no introduction. Is such a familiar face in our region. But for those who are not familiar with Sanjay uncle, I'll read his bio. So brother Sanjay attended Balvikas in India and was fortunate to receive Balvikas education, or Balvikas graduate certificate from the hands of our beloved Bhagawan. Though he has earned a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and a master's in computer engineering, he feels that the most impactful has been his education that he's received in Balvikas. He's served as the education coordinator for our region and currently serves as our YA advisor. Sanjay uncle is the founder and CEO of JOGO Health, the first ever digital therapeutics product that has used science of EMG biofeedbacks to treat neuromuscular diseases. So, Sanjay uncle, I turn over the floor to you.
Sairam to everyone, and Sairam, and thank you so much, Shri, for that warm words of introduction. I offer myself with love and humility and lots of prayers on this beautiful day at the lotus feet of our dear Bhagawan. Sairam to all of you. It's such a pleasure to be with you on this lovely day. And just want to echo what Shri said. Happy birthday to the Swami in all of us, as well as happy Thanksgiving. This is one of the most beautiful weekends in the United States, where we express our gratitude for all things small and big and in between. And it's so apt that we should celebrate Swami's birthday this weekend, this long weekend. Swami says that the real birthday is the day when I'm born in each of your hearts, right? Just bear with me a moment. The day when I'm born in each of your hearts is my real birthday. Now, he just doesn't want to take birth and sit quiet. He wants to grow. He wants to expand and manifest himself from within the heart and serve others and, spread the love to the world and to the universe itself, right? So birth alone isn't important, but the growth and the harvest and the fruits of that birth is important as well. And that's what Thanksgiving represents. And that's what Swami's birthday truly means for all of us. So I'll take you through a few thoughts. I want to share a few stories, as well as have you reflect on what this means for each one of us. So if you would be kind, please use the chat window and share your thoughts as you reflect on the messages of Swami. As those thoughts come to you, please feel free to share. I'm going to request Brother Shri to read them out. So it's my prayer that this should be a communion with Swami, and that we all experience Swami through this 1 hour we're going to spend together on this beautiful day. So we're oftentimes wondering what's going on. Is this going to lead to something? The different events the incidents that happen in our lives. And I too feel the same way from time to time. And there was once a little girl that was sitting on the floor watching the grandmother sitting on a rocking chair, embroidering and spending a lot of time and attention on the embroidery. So the little girl looked up, she saw this mess that you see on the screen. And she said, "Grandma, what are you doing? This looks messed up." And the grandma, being grandma, she said, "My dear, just wait. Just you wait. Don't be in a rush to pronounce your judgment. Just wait." And day after day passes. It still looks like a mess until finally it looks like a beautiful set of flowers. And Swami works with each one of us similarly. We don't know what the end product is, but we can all be assured that it's beautiful than what we can imagine, right? So there's a beautiful quote of Swami I want to read to you. "When you listen to my story, you forget the story of the world and live only in my story until there is no separate story for you to relate or live. Well, to make you storyless is the scheme of my story. And I hope the stories that I'll share will get you absorbed in the glory that he is and lose ourselves in that love and in that beauty." Swami took birth in this tiny village of Parthi. And we all know the story of Puttaparthi being an anthill. And our hearts too remain like the barren anthills where there's no vegetation, there's no harvest of any kind until the Lord sets foot. In other words, the Lord takes birth and transforms the heart, right? So I want to play this song. Hope you enjoy it. And as you enjoy it, also reflect on its meaning and do share your reflections in the chat.
On the banks of the Chitravati, a tiny village lay, cursed with anthills. Puttaparthi was in total dismay, while the river flowed so gracefully, the skies had turned to gray. The villagers had been suffering every single day. Came down from the heavens and entered her womb. A boy was born with a laugh and a grin and a smile full of every tear. Earth rejoiced as the Lord had come to bring them joy and cheer.
you enjoyed that lovely song. So here was the first mandir built in Patti. It was called the Old Mandir, or in Telugu it was called the Pata Mandiram. And this was inaugurated in 1945. And as you can see, this was just a tin shed with tin as the roof, and much smaller than the mandir we have today. And this is the invitation that was sent for the housewarming, or what's called the Graha Pravesham, or the opening ceremony of this very first mandir in Puttaparthi. And it happened on Friday, the 14th of December, 1945 at 10 a.m. And this is the invitation that the devotees sent to invite other devotees to this ceremony. It's a piece of beautiful history of Swami. And here's Swami as a teenager sitting in the altar. And you can see how simple the altar is. And this is the prayer hall inside the old mandir. There was this huge picture of Swami and ladies seated on the left and the men seated on the right. And this is how things were in the really, really early days in the late 40s. Another picture of the altar, a close-up picture. And here's Swami around 47, 48. And he used to drive this Morris Minor. And he himself has said he got a license at a very young age. And the inspector who gave him the license was very impressed with his skills, with no prior driving experience. He used to drive quite fast, reach Chennai from Puttaparthi in about 5 hours in his telling. And here's Swami encouraging us to start early, drive slowly, and reach safely. And if you look at how he started his mission, he started very early. Probably when he was even 5 years old, he started gathering devotees, teaching them bhajans, teaching them about values. And he drove slowly. He was not building massive projects when he was a teen or in his 20s. All his massive projects started when he was in his late 40s, 50s, into 60s and 70s. So you see how he set the stage and gradually expanded his mission such that it reached a global scale. Sri, I want to poll you for some reflections. If you have any, please do share.
Absolutely, Uncle. So I was just going to say that, I just wrote it down right now, which is this quote of start early, drive slowly, reach safely, I think reflects very well as well to what he says in SSE, right? When he talks about building your faith over time, and he says, to allow for kids to, and you're the expert, Uncle, but from my recollection, it was, to allow them, the premise behind Balvikas is to get them involved in those spiritual matters early so that they can build this long history. So I was just kind of writing that down, that I thought that was very, very interesting to me.
Great. Thank you, Sri. Yes, I think this is a message for all of us to not rush through life. Don't drive rash. Don't be in a hurry to reach someplace. Take the time, and life has a beautiful way of building one after the other, and don't rush it, right? And that might lead to some untoward consequences. So more on this when I share other stories. And this is the Prashanti Nilayam that was inaugurated in 1950. And you can see there's pretty much nothing around the mandir as it came up. And this is the invitation that was sent when the Prashanti Mandir was to be inaugurated on Swami's birthday in 1950. So it's actually 72 years since the Prashanti Mandir was opened to the world. And we all know that Swami said, this mandir is what the whole world needs to become. And the whole world needs to become an abode of peace. And this mandir is just a step in that direction, that, peace would emanate from the mandir and envelop the whole world. And here's the invitation that was sent on the occasion of the inauguration of the mandir. It's all in Telugu. And this is the English translation of it. That says, on such and such day, which is the 23rd of November, 1950, Swami will enter the Prashanti Nilayam. And more interestingly, he said the next day, which is the 24th, from 7 a.m. onwards, there will be Akhanda Bhajan by the Bangalore devotees up until the 25th of November. And all are invited to participate and receive Swami's grace. And this was dated 14th of November, 1950. So very historic. Interestingly, the back cover of the invitation had listed all the devotees that were instrumental in building the mandir. Right? So on the left, you see all the men listed. And on the right, you see all the women listed. Talk about gratitude. Swami doesn't need to express his gratitude. And the wordings on the top is the literal translation. It says, Bhagawan, with the help of devotees mentioned below, had the Prashanti Nilayam completed. So here's an example of expressing gratitude and acknowledging the contributions of so many devotees that helped bring the mandir to life, right? And some of our devotees in our region are related to some folks here, so I wouldn't go into the details of it. But this is amazing, an example from Swami himself of how to express gratitude. And this is the mandir when it was finished. And you see it's beautiful. And of course, this has been transformed into what we see today with the Kulwant Hall coming over the mandir. And this is also another historic picture. This is when the Gita-Upadesh, or the sculpture of Arjuna being taught the Gita by Krishna, was actually installed in the back of the mandir. So all of us who have visited the mandir have seen this, but this is just when it just came up. You can see some stuff hanging from the roof. It's not yet completed, and this picture is probably from this late 60s or early 70s, I should say. And all these pictures are from this book, which I've shamelessly copied, thanks to my dad, who put this book together with all these historic pictures. So Swami likes to sharpen his devotees, and here he is sharpening his pencil. He likes sharp instruments that are ready to execute. And here's a beautiful picture of him sharpening a pencil. And he puts us through the sharpener all the time, making sure the lead is pointed such that it writes what it's supposed to write, and so on. And I certainly had those experiences, which I'm going to share. And here's another beautiful picture of him selecting a hat for one of his students. And he most famously said, I select the role, I select the costumes, I write the script, I choose the role for each one of you, and I alone enjoy the play. And here he said, I alone know the trouble of teaching each step of the dance to you, meaning to us devotees, because he wants us all to perform to the role that is assigned to each one of us. And I want to share a few of the sharpenings I went through and few of the lessons that I learned from Swami. And feel free to reflect on this and share your reflections in the chat. And as I said, my prayer is that this is a communion, and we all experience Swami through the process. So as a teenager, I was given to be rebellious, nothing unusual. I think every teen goes through it. I wouldn't take part in much of anything at home. And in fact, my mom's gone on record to say, you treat the home like a hotel. You come, have your meals, you go and sleep in your room, and then you're off to school in the morning. And so that was how I used to be as a teen. And come weekends, I used to rush off to do service with Sevadals and so on. And I had this blessed opportunity to serve near Swami's room at Sundaram in Chennai. And one day I was doing the hard work of swabbing the floor around Swami's room. And this is back bending work. You have to dip a cloth in a water that has some disinfectant poured in, squeeze the water out into the bucket, mop the floor, and then repeat over and over again till you get the whole room cleaned, and then the next room cleaned, and so on. So I was busy getting the floor mopped, my hand moving like a car wiper in an arc from left to right, on my knees on the floor of the room. And I did one sweep from left to right, and the rag landed close to Swami's feet. And I wasn't expecting Swami at that time, so I kneeled and looked up, and there was Swami. And Swami's words were, "See how you're working here, but you hardly do anything at home. And what is the use of doing service here?" And in other words, he was telling me, look, service starts at home. It's no point going out and serving if you're not taking care of the home. If you don't serve your near and dear ones, the service that you offer outside isn't of much consequence. And so that's a message I got pretty strong early on from Swami himself, and that made me change my ways at home. And the next year when he visited Chennai, I was distributing food packets to Narayan Seva with my friends who were also helping. And he very graciously stopped me, and I assumed he was happy that I was living the same life at home and in service outside the home. So this is a very beautiful memory for me. And in the same visit of Swami, when I had this beautiful experience, he invited me to just follow his car and come to his discourse, which he was giving at another venue. And it's when you follow Swami, you realize, what a blessing it is to have the proximity, to have the access, because both sides of the car, there'll be the crowd surging like how you're seeing over here. And the car has to slowly slither through the crowded roads, and any traffic light you stop, there's this crowd surging all the time. And so it was a great privilege to follow Swami, listen to the discourse, come back, take our post. And once he came back, he asked me, "What did you like about my discourse?" And that really stumped, because I was not expecting a follow-up to the discourse. So luckily, I had the presence of mind. I took this nugget away from the discourse, and he said, "Fish is better than selfish," meaning fish cleans the water that it's in, but the selfish people pollute the environment that they're in. That was what Swami was talking about. So I thought it was a very beautiful play of words. And I said, "Swami, I liked what you said about the fish, that fish is better than selfish." And Swami very graciously gave him the opportunity to touch his feet. And there was once when I had the blessing of holding a tumbler of tender coconut water for Swami. And Swami would often just look at it, ask what it is, and he may or may not sip. And it was a long, hot day, and I was bold enough to tell Swami, "Swami, you must be tired. Please have this glass of tender coconut water." And his response was, "I'm always fresh." And that's true. No matter when you see him, if you see him early in the morning, he's fresh as a flower. You see him before he goes to bed at night, he's always fresh. He's exuding love all the time. And that probably what keeps him fresh. And I think that's a lesson for us. And Swami has said this, that if you're really involved in the work, you really love what you're doing, then you're never going to feel tired. You're always going to have boundless energy to whatever it is that you're doing. So this is another lesson that I hold dear to my heart. I am always fresh. And once I forgot to water the plant underneath the wash basin where Swami washes his hands after a meal. And the leaves were just droopy, like what you see here. And he called for me and said, "Don't ever forget to water the plant." So of all the things that he's attending to, reading letters, meeting devotees, this little plant under the sink caught his eye. And another lesson that I took away is, don't never not pay attention to the things that you're supposed to take care of. It may be a plant, it may be a room, it may be your clothes. All these little things matter a lot to Swami. And this is another lesson that I took away. There was another incident when Swami was incredibly late for lunch. He usually comes at between 12 and 1 for lunch. And that day he came at 4 p.m. He was about 4 hours behind. And we were worried. So we had planned, me and my Sevadal friends, we had planned to ask him what had happened and why he's late. And he knew that we were going to ask him. So when he entered the room, he put on a big act that this terrible accident had happened with his car, and it was so messy. And thank God, we all escaped. That was his tone. And we were just taken in by this act of Swami, and we never knew that he's just playing with us. And so from a mood of confronting him, it just shifted to one of concern for his well-being. And we all started asking, "Swami, are you okay? Did anybody get hurt? What happened?" And so on, as you would naturally when you hear about something like this. Then he waited for all our questions to die down, and he just lowered this big lesson on us. He said, "Can anything untoward happen when I am here?" And that's another thing I often remember whenever I think, "Oh my God, this is way too untoward," or "This is no, everything has some purpose." And I think about the embroidery and what Swami said here, and the beauty of it manifests after a while, and in the moment we don't realize the significance of it. I've given you some sense of the of my teenage years and how that went. And one of my desires or prayers, if you will, was to drive Swami in Swami's car, right? I was not eligible to get even a learner's license, but this desire was just overwhelming. And I used to keenly watch my elder cousins drive the car. I used to watch my dad drive the car. And during the next visit of Swami, my dad had offered his car that you see here in this picture for Swami's use. And the whole family was praying that if there is a chance, Swami should use this or have one of Swami's guests use it. And so this was parked in Sundaram next to Swami's Benz. And every day he would pass by and ask whose car it is. And the Sevadals there or the officials there would say, "So-and-so's car, Swami, whenever you want to use, he's given it for your use," etc. And so every day went by like this. There would be inquiry and there would be nothing. And so we didn't think anything was going to happen. We were just happy that Swami was at least inquiring about it, acknowledging our prayers, but nothing was happening. So Swami was due to leave for Brindavan the following day, and the evening he sent for my dad and took a little ride here. So let me flash back a little bit. I told you that I was watching my cousins and my dad drive the car. So one afternoon when my parents were asleep and my siblings were away, it was a perfect day to commit a crime. So I took the car keys and I knew the process of how to get the car going. So I started the car, went around the driveway. Everything went really well. Nothing happened. I parked where it was supposed to be parked. Put the keys back where it was supposed to be. Mom and dad didn't wake up. And I'd covered all my fingerprints of the crime. And I thought, okay, this is pretty cool. This is not that difficult. I think I can do this. When I get a chance, I'm gonna ask Swami and drive him. And so Swami took a ride in the car, and he had my dad stop the car right where I was standing. And which door should he get out from? Swami got out the door right opposite me. And I'm thinking, oh my God, my prayers are going to be answered now. This is my moment. And Swami is so kind that he's finally answering my prayers. And so he opened up and what do you think he should ask me? He said, hey, do you know how to drive? And the door is not even fully open yet. And this is the first question. And so my excitement is sky high. And I'm anticipating that he's going to let me drive. And I very excitedly said, yes, Swami, I know how to drive. And his next question was, do you have a license? I was like, oh my God, why is he asking all this after the first question? I said, no, Swami. But I know how to drive. So he asked, have you ever driven before? I was oblivious to what was going on. I walked straight into the trap. And unbeknown to me, my dad had joined Swami. He was right next to Swami. And of course, in my eyes, nobody else was visible. And I said, yes, Swami, I have driven before and I can take care of you. I can easily drive you. And my dad was right next to Swami, and Swami said, did you just hear what he just said? And he looked again at me, said, don't ever do this again. Learn properly and then drive. So I reflect upon this time and again. And I think this experience has given me a lot of lessons on reflection. There is a merit to learning things properly and doing things at the right time. And this goes back to start early, drive slowly, and reach safely. Don't rush to be an adult or to do something that you're not ready for. Take the time to learn, take the time to practice, and then do it, right? So these are some lessons that I learned on reflection. And Sri graciously mentioned that I was fortunate to receive the Balvikas or SSC graduation certificate from Swami. And this is a moment that the photographer captured and something I treasure. And I remind myself what he expects out of this, to live up to the blessing of the education and human values that I've been able to receive. And I attribute a lot of my success to what I learned. I think the seeds were sown early and they grow over time as we practice, and it yields amazing results. And I'll vouch for this any day. So as a young man and college graduate, you're caught up in life, suddenly, you're thinking about a lot of things and they take a good amount of space in your heart. And in one of the interactions I had with Swami asked me pointedly, what do you want? So I thought about it for a while, and then he pressed again. And fortunately, I said, Swami, I only want you. And he looked at me and said, see, the heart is a single seat sofa. If you give space to something else over there, there is no space for Swami. But if you have Swami in your heart, everything comes to you, right? So it's a very, very special place. And it's a lesson that I learned over a long period of time. It was not apparent when Swami told me this, but it took me years and years to finally absorb the profundity of it. And but I'm glad I learned it very early on, and I'm able to appreciate what this truly means. So with that, in Rama's lifetime, his devotees built a bridge across the ocean and rescued Sita. And I want us all to reflect, what is our role as Sai devotees? In 2008, Swami very painfully said, the world is suffering. And that's true even today. There's a lot of suffering that we see. And in the same discourse in 2008, he said, in 25, 28 years, all the countries will be united. There will be an era of peace. So I think between those two statements of Swami is the work for us. How do we bring about the unity? How do we usher in peace? And what is it that we can do for the blessings that we have received, for the opportunities that we have gotten with Swami, and being aware of his teachings? What is it that we can do to bring that about in the world, right? So I leave that question for you to reflect on. And Swami says, pray like a child, believe that your prayers are heard, and believe that they will be answered at the right time. And there's no beautiful way to pray than just with that innocence, with that purity, and wait patiently for the Lord to respond. So I want to share a favorite quote through the song. It's from the Bible, from the Psalm. It says, "Lord is your shepherd, and you shall not want." And let's hold that dear in our hearts. And He's here always to guide us, and we shall not want in anything. So I hope you enjoy this beautiful song.
The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He makes me lie in pastures green. He leads me by the still, still waters. His goodness restores my soul. And I will trust in you. And I will trust in you alone. For your endless mercy follows me. Your goodness will lead me home. He guides my ways in righteousness, and He anoints my head with oil, and my cup it overflows with joy. I feast on His pure delights, and I will trust in you. And I will trust in you alone. For your endless mercy follows me. Your goodness will lead me home. And though I walk the darkest path, I will not fear the evil one. For you are with me, and your rod and
What a wonderful song to kind of bring us home at the end of, as we're wrapping up on Swami's birthday and thinking about reflecting on his glory. It's such a beautiful song, Sanjay Uncle. Thank you for sharing.
Okay, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I'm gonna, for anybody listening, if you have any questions for Sanjay Uncle, please go ahead and include them in the chat. The last couple of minutes here will be shared with Sanjay Uncle, kind of taking the audience perspective, and we have all this experience to reflect on. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat or any comments. There were a few, Sanjay Uncle, going back to the pictures that you shared with us, that you so generously shared with us. And I think you said that was compiled by your father, correct?
Yeah.
It's in a book.
Yes, it's in a book. It's called Invitations to Glory, and it's available on Amazon.
On Amazon. Okay, wonderful.
We don't have a print version yet. We're working on a print version.
Oh, it's like an ebook.
It's like a coffee table book. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. There's a couple questions asking about how people can get their hands on. So, one question I have, one of the reflections that I had kind of picked up on when that first picture you showed us on the good deprivation for the old mandir, I thought it was very interesting. On it, it said new budget mandir. I don't know if when you've read it, if you've seen that. I think it's so interesting to think about even the picture you shared of the old mandir. It's packed, right? And I can imagine sitting in the mandir space at that time that picture was taken, being like, this is a very crowded space, not even knowing that Colvin Paul was coming, or in the crowds that some of us are very familiar with. And I think those synchronicities are sometimes very, very interesting. This idea that in one time point in the journey of Sai, that a devotee can feel the same way that someone else at a different time point can feel. And I wanted to ask you that question of have you ever felt that way? Is as a kid, you were like, oh, I had this feeling, had this very, very strong emotion. And then as an adult, you kind of had something similar, and it was like 2 points in time, but you felt very, very similar in either that expression or that strong feeling.
Yeah, I think it's the same, Shri. I think if anything, I would say the world kind of enters you more as an adult, and as a child, you're so much more open to fully embrace Swami, for lack of a better expression. That you don't have other things that occupy your thoughts. So and I think that just goes back to, that's the best time to plant seeds, right? When the soil is fresh, there's nothing else occupying the soil, so to speak. I think it's a beautiful time in everybody's life to be exposed to Swami, to be thinking about his teachings and following his path. And not that it isn't there, but I think I'll be honest, I struggle to make time for those kinds of deep reflections. But I think that's the only qualitative difference, I would say, between, as a child, as an adult. But, you grow in awareness of Swami, and things that bother you as a child don't bother you as an adult because of life experiences, and you are able to connect it to Swami's teachings. So that's another side of the same coin.
Yeah, Yeah. Actually, so that's a great lead up to another question I was having, which was, you spent a lot of your time, your younger years with him, and the story around the car and driving. Um, when I imagine, we hear and we see Swami building such personal relationships with students and people that are in his close proximity. It's inevitable that you have this very strong personal relationship. He's both God, but also just a physical being in front of you that you have in some way shared memories and trusted some, uh, goodwill into and gotten guidance from. And when things like that happen, I think a natural feeling sort of is this sort of level of betrayal. But I don't know, did you ever feel that whenever that happened? You felt like, your father was standing there, Swami knew that a good friend would protect you, but here Swami put you up almost on the chopping block. I'm curious.
Yes, yes. That's a beautiful question. So, it's like when you are in front of Swami, you never ever feel angry at him, because was always exuding love, and even when he's angry, you feel loved. Even when he's berating you or taking you to task, it comes with so much of love added to it. Even though the medicine is strong, I think there is enough sugar in the medicine, so to speak. You are able to swallow the bitter pill,
Right.
and because it comes from a place of supreme love, and that I've been raked over the coals by Swami, and you feel grateful for that raking. It comes from that place of pure love, and you feel it, and you feel it in your heart. And the interesting thing is, Swami also feels bad after he's raked you over the coals, and there is always something he makes up after that. He gives you a gift or says something nicer the next day, or no, he makes sure that you're not, that you're still being loved very dearly. Yeah.
I have to say, oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, I think that's something. I think that's very, very special about Swami. Yeah.
I was gonna say, for me, that's, I think, the tall tale side of it just not being another person-to-person interaction. Like that, when that keeps happening, we always hear that with different people's experiences, right? That they say, yes, this was, in any other given circumstance, could have been a really, really bad situation, and he made it so much better by just being who he is. And what better sign of the divine than that? Just an immeasurable amount of love with everything, no matter good or bad. And I think that's kind of what I was imagining as you kind of, I had both those thoughts. It was like, I'm not sure how I would feel if my friend would do that, but I was like, but it's different. It's with Swami, right?
Or anybody that does it with love, you kind of feel that, right? And I think that creates gives us a template for us to how should we approach corrective actions. I think it was Jesus who said that unless you say it with love, the message never reaches. Or something to that effect. I'm probably paraphrasing a lot, but I think that's a great template for corrective action.
Absolutely. And like you said initially, he's always setting the example for us, right? So when we feel that from him, we know it's possible, because a lot of times the thing stopping us is, oh, if that's Swami, like he can do it, I can't, he's God. But I think when he does that, he makes it very apparent to all of us that it is possible. It's humanly possible in our experience to do that. And I appreciate that point, that idea of taking any kind of criticism you have and keeping it within the vision of Swami and delivering it in that way. How much more loving and effective could it be, going down that direction?
Yes, and Swami has his own beautiful ways. He would, in his telling, he says, if there is some road repair going on with the devotee, he takes a diversion. So he'll he'll avoid, but even when he avoids, he will somehow get the message across that he's thinking about you, that he might inquire with somebody but not with you directly. So
Yeah,
so he has his beautiful ways.
he does. And there was one of our members put in a comment that watering your plants means always paying close attention. Don't neglect any form of life. Nature must be nurtured just as nature nurtures us. Small comment from Swami, but big lessons and implications. And I have to say, with that quote, I also thought, something similar along those lines in terms of Swami's reminding us of our responsibilities. But I also got like a feeling that he's also reminding us to take care of ourselves in some ways and make sure that we're watering ourselves. Don't forget to water the plant. And if the plant is us, then, we have to make sure that we water and take care of ourselves. And I was wondering, has Swami spoken at all on that topic of sort of replenishing our pots, or recharging our batteries, and good ways that we can do that as we kind of go through our day and we're constantly discharging? Has he spoken to any good, or in your experience, have you kind of picked up anything?
Not to me personally, and I had this experience of this plant that missed getting a helping of water from me. It was my job that I was delinquent on. But nothing misses his eye. I mean, he will even point out if there is a button missing in the shirt. He will say, "Don't do this. Go get it fixed or get another shirt." He doesn't like anybody to miss even the small things. So you take care of small things, you take care of big things in that process. I think that's the lesson I took away from it. Yeah.
Do you think that you take care of the small things, you discharge your responsibility, and the responsibility then takes care of you as you take care and you look at all the things that you are that you're responsible for, that the support that you need will come to you because you're taking care of those responsibilities?
Yes, and I think that's the meaning of this song that we all just heard. The Lord is your shepherd and you shall not want. And that's also the meaning of give that soul seat in your heart to Swami. And when you have Swami there, everything is attracted to Swami in your heart. And that's the story of Swami's life. He started building the Prashanti Mandir when he was 23. And the required resources just came its way, and that's the story of the hospital, and that's the story of whatever we do in the region as well, right? That we don't assume everything is available at the start, but once you're doing things the right way, resources make its way, and brings it to fruition.
Absolutely. I think we've seen that multiple times, to your point.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
So you could ask on the chat, please share a little bit about your father's connection with Swami. So we want to go into a little bit of stories on with your father and his connection.
Sure. So he came to Swami through his marriage to my mom, and up until then he was not aware, and he had heard about Swami, but he was not involved. It was a very passing interest in Swami. And it so happened he had to take my grandfather and one of his friends to bhajans one day, where Swami was supposed to give a discourse in Chennai, and there was nobody to take my grandfather, so my dad took his father, my grandfather, and one of his friends to this place where Swami was supposedly giving a discourse. But instead of discoursing, Swami sang for 1 hour. And he had no interest in bhajans, and he found himself clapping along with thousands that had gathered. And so that was his sort of aha moment, if you will, as we call it here. That, how can this one person sing for 1 hour and have a couple of thousand people following in tune and in beat? And that was his gateway to Swami. And even after marriage, he used to take mom for bhajans, but sit outside in the car and wait for her to finish bhajans and come back. And he used to enjoy bhajans while seated inside the car. And so a thought occurred to me, if I'm enjoying here, might as well go inside and enjoy. And so the vortex kind of sucked him into the bhajan hall, and but his calling was service. He was fortunate to be involved in a lot of service projects, doing a lot of medical camps, given his medical background. And he was also involved in the Chennai water project as well.
Wow.
That Swami undertook. And he's had a beautiful set of experiences.
Is there anyone in particular that he kind of goes back to often, or are there any experiences, quotes, lessons that he has brought up often in conversation with you?
No, I think he used to always say, look, you have Swami with you and stay true to him. And that was one thing he used to tell me early on. And I think he's had so many experiences. But I think some of the transformative experiences, given his medical background, was, he used to rely too much on his medical acumen, if you will.
Sure.
And not there's anything wrong with it, but he used to discount the role of faith, the role of love in medicine. But I think his experiences with Swami taught him to know what's beyond medicine in terms of healing. And he's written a book about his experiences called The Avatar's Prescription. I'll share that with you one of these days. Yeah.
Looking forward to it. It's another book for us all to write down. Make sure we go find. Is that where you got your infatuation with cars? Because he was in his car all the time. You saw that and you're like, what is he doing in there?
I think my infatuation with cars was very early on. My parents say that I would rattle off the names of the model, make, and year.
Serious business.
Driving through the streets as early as maybe when I was 2 or 3 years old. So I think it was something that I probably inherited from a past life. That's my theory. And Swami always had like really cool cars. He would show up in the latest and the greatest. And all these fancy cars weren't widely seen in India while I was growing up. Of course, today you see you see the latest models roll out in Chennai the day it's released in Detroit or Hamburg or some other place. But it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
So seeing Swami in those cars also sort of spoke to this this car nerd in me, if you will.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think one Swami made fun of me and said, "This guy is mad about cars." And that's what he told.
Is there any other continuation to the car like connection with Swami? Did he ever, when you got your license finally, did he ever say anything?
No, in fact, I'm still, I shouldn't say still, but, whenever I give rides to, fellow devotees, I feel that's a chance that Swami has bestowed on me to take them someplace where there is their spiritual fellowship. So,
Yes.
although I didn't get to drive him physically, so it's interesting. I mentioned this experience to some SSC 4 children a few years ago, and I was kind of blown away by one child's reflection. So this child said, "Uncle, you know what? I think this was 2012 or 2014. He said, Swami is a lot like this. He's taught us how to drive. And now he took a back seat, saw how we were driving, and now he's like watching us from the outside."
Wow.
So it was a very powerful reflection.
Yeah. Always surprising to hear what SSC, children in SSC will say to you.
Yeah.
That's such a enlightened thought.
Yes. Now, coming from a 14 or 15-year-old, it puts things in perspective for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You mentioned when we were talking about the certificate that you got your Balvikas certificate from Swami, that the thing that's had the most impact is Balvikas. And I was wondering if there were any particular lessons or things that you kind of go back to a lot and that have continually showed up in your life that have been sort of laid the foundations during Balvikas. What is it about Balvikas that kind of really, it was a very emphatic statement that you made in terms of, that was the foundation. Why do you say that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So, the pressures of business can lead to cutting corners, right? And sometimes you get an authorization to cut corners from the highest folks in the company, saying, "Look, I think we need this badly. Go ahead. We'll make an exception." And there've been times when I pushed back and said, "It's okay if I don't make the numbers. It's okay if we suffer a little, but I don't think it's worth caving in and taking this route." And there'll be lots of pushbacks, and it can be a pressure cooker often.
Yeah.
And when you stay the course, when you know it's not right to cut corners, when it's not right to compromise values, you end up succeeding, even though there's a bit of a delay, sometimes quite a bit of delay. But when it comes to you, it's always, it makes up for the delay, right? And you're always held in much higher respect by those that are dealing with you.
Hmm.
So that's one thing that's led to a lot of success. I mean, they know you're not gonna compromise on the value system.
Hmm.
That you're not just gonna do anything to make the numbers, so to speak.
Right. Yeah.
And so that sort of builds a reputation, if you will, and they know that, if you signed off on something, they know they can trust what you've signed off on.
Yeah.
And that's very big.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes back to, we will often hear Swami say, character's everything. And I think that this definitely underlines that point in terms of, you may not have met your numbers, the business, might falter, but they trust you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think there's a good or bad. I think there's a lot of focus on the material aspects versus the value aspects. But I think the world is slowly changing.
Do you still see that? I mean, you're still very involved in SSE. It's your bread and butter, I know. And do you still feel like that's still resonant with a lot of SSE, like children in SSE, and that they, or when they graduate and they students, prior students that come back, and have you heard that?
I think so. I think the seeds are there for sure. And that's not to say that, I think anybody will make some mistakes, but they'll rebound very quickly because they have a compass that's constantly telling them. And at some point, you have no other choice but to listen to it. So voluntarily listening to it is better than being forced to listen to it.
I'll even say from my experience that sometimes it just clicks, you hear it, to your point, you hear some of the material in SSE over and over and over again. And then at one point you look back and you go, wait, that actually makes a lot of sense. When I'm looking for rationale and like, why is this happening? Why is that happening? And you come back and think about something from Balvikas and you're like, wow, actually, like the answer's always been right there. And I never really tried, to your point, belief, going back to what you said about your father, in putting belief a little bit on par with your sort of physical experience, has been something that I think that just rebound effect.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And, on the flip side, I kind of check myself saying, okay, I'm going to go tell this children about this. And, am I practicing it? So you kind of catch yourself from doing things, right?
Yeah.
Because, the privilege of, being with these pure children is that, you got to be true to who you are. So as a child, the being in SSE helped me sort of gain the perspective, but as an adult and as a SSE teacher, it's put a lot of guardrails, right? So you don't veer off the course.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm honored to chat just to see if anyone else has any other questions, comments. If you do, please put them in the chat. Happy to talk around any of those comments. I have two things, Sanjay Uncle, before we hit the bottom of the hour, or half the hour, and we get to 9:30. But a little birdie told me about an experience where you were sitting in line and you had just a lot of thoughts, and you were asking Swami about guidance around that, and he kind of said something along the lines of, just give it to me. Could you narrate that experience? If you know what I'm if you know what I'm talking about, essentially.
I don't, that doesn't ring a bell. I think this, unless it's something very specific, trying to think what that's about. Is that bird from California by any chance?
Bird's not from California. It's an in-home bird in your home state. No worries, no worries. I probably just misheard the story. So I'll go to my next question, which is,
but if I can just say one thing on the topic is, 90% of my conversations with Swami, whenever I had the blessing, was on thoughts, right? So he put a lot of weight on thoughts, and he would always say, make sure your thoughts are in the right, your thoughts are good, and because thoughts become habits, patterns, and that becomes action. And that becomes character. So, and he would give examples from history of, he would say about Kichaka from the Mahabharata that was slain by Bhima. And he said all these folks with bad thoughts just perished. And he once said, nobody calls their child Duryodhan. Said they're tainted for history. So it's not a one-time egregious action.
Yeah.
So that's something that he would narrate all these different instances from the epics. And of course, it was nice to hear, but I would be honest, I didn't comprehend the profundity of it up until into adulthood.
But I think returning back to the conversation we were having earlier, it's like you place the seeds, right, when you're younger, and then maybe later on in life you come back to it and you reap that the fruit coming off that seed as you get into adulthood. I think that's just remarkable. Every time I'm reminded of that, so because I always go back to my days of kicking and screaming and telling my parents I won't go, and then and the benefit that I was almost depriving myself of is always something that I kind of always return back to.
Absolutely. And I've had those moments myself. So
I wanted to ask that exact question. So because I feel like it's a very, very common arc for any kid when they are in the organization with Swami at a young age, to kind of what we're talking about is the spiritual matters seem kind of like perplexing to somebody, and so they, a lot of people kind of drift and then they come back. I was wondering if that was the case with you, or did you kind of always keep that connection with Swami?
Yeah, no, I think I was fortunate to be exposed to Swami from the time I was born. And so any sort of distractions would always create an internal alarm saying, okay, you've been exposed to Swami, you go to Balvikas, this is the right thing to be doing, right? And that was kind of a guardrail, if you will. But in terms of my early start in SSC or Balvikas in India was probably late into group 2 or almost group 3. So I kind of missed out on group 1 and group 2. And so Sunday is usually a lot of playtime, and it'll conflict with games that are going on with friends in the neighborhood. And they'd almost always show up at 10 in the morning and say, hey, are you in or what? Right. So I'd go look at my parents and they would say, no, you're not in. and that used to create a lot of conflict. But I was lucky that, my Balvikas guru was a wonderful person. So it got me into the class, very early on. And then I used to look forward to it, because it was from like, why am I doing this, to I'm really enjoying this.
You had that transformation of heart in some ways.
Yeah. And I think that's you got to give it that time.
Would that be your sort of suggestion or your words of wisdom to parents that are in the position that I put my parents in, where they have a kicking and screaming child that's having a hard time really seeing the value of SSE?
Yes, I think you should. I think any parent would go through it. I think the older the child, it needs more conversation. It's never good to do anything by force. That's what Swami says. I think if we explain to the child lovingly, and the teacher does the same in class, and makes it for a very enjoyable experience, I think the child is going to gravitate. Because I think this is something that draws children very naturally, because the values are already within, and there's certain elevation they feel just being in that environment. And if you look at it, it's an atmosphere of heightened selflessness, right? Because there's nothing asked of the parent other than bringing the child. There's no fees of any kind, and it's a pure service environment where the person running the class is doing it purely as a service, and the whole center doesn't even ask anything beyond the filling out a form. We don't pass the hats around. There's nothing asked, and that's a beautiful environment. That's pretty unique, that Swami has created for all of us. And I sincerely think the centers are one of the biggest blessings that Swami has given us.
An embodiment of his teachings and
Yes.
his principles. I've never seen it that way, but that's a very apt way of looking at it. It's
Yeah.
exactly what happens.
Because there's no other place that I know of that you can just show up where nothing is asked of you monetarily, or we don't even ask them to commit to anything besides just coming. Yeah.
Right. That's a wonderful point, and I think as we hit the 9:30 mark, it's a wonderful point to kind of wrap our conversation. I think before we head over to Arti and closing prayers, I'm going to turn it over to you, Sanjay Uncle, for any closing remarks, any last thoughts that you wanted to share, any experiences that we may not have been able to get to so far.
Nothing comes to mind. I certainly enjoyed this conversation with you, Sri, as always. It's wonderful to discuss with you. And I want to offer this session to Swami as his very humble birthday gift from all of us. And may he be with us, may he grow inside of us, and may he manifest in all his love and glory. And I submit this prayer at his lotus feet. Sairam.
Sairam, Uncle. Thank you all for joining us, and we will be going into Arti and closing prayers from here. Sairam.
Sairam.
ओम जय जगदीश हरे स्वामी सत्य साई हरे भक्त जना संरक्षक भक्त जना संरक्षक भक्ति महेश्वर ओम जय जगदीश हरे शशिपदनाशी करा सर्वा प्राणपते स्वामी सर्वा प्राणपते आश्रित कल्पलतीका आश्रित कल्पलतीका आपरपाद्रव ओम जय जगदीश हरे माता पिता गुरुदैवमु मरियन्तयु नीवे स्वामी मरियन्तयु नीवे ज्ञान ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ ज्ञान ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ शयन ओम जय जगदीश हरे ओंकार रूप ओजस्वी साई महादेवा सत्य साई महादेवा मंगल आरती अमृत मंगल आरती अमृत मंगल विनाश ओम जय जगदीश हरे नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम साई नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम साई नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम साई नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा शांति 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 समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु ओम शांति 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 peace 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 on earth peace 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 for all the universe for all the universe
जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की